Hello everyone, welcome back to the Grand Prix Podcast. I am Elton, this is Andy.
Hello.
As always.
What should it be? Howdy, y'all.
Howdy, yeehaw, and slap my thigh, etc.
Wait, do we end with a burlesque show? Do we end with a burlesque show all of a sudden?
Awesome. I am not going to say no to that. This is going to be a special one, or this is a special one.
It's going to be an experience. It's something new, something different. Well, at least you might have done this in the before time. It's the first time I've done something like this.
I think I've covered Indy in prior episodes. I know even on Apotheosis of a Bombast, I covered it on there once.
Wow.
Yeah, that's going way back. I can't remember who crashed.
That's before the dark times, before the Empire.
Yeah, I think it was Newgarden, or I couldn't even say who was on for a win for Indy. He crashed.
Was it Nigel Mansell?
No. This was the very last lap, and what's his name? Oh bollocks! I've forgotten his name now.
This is off to a great start.
Yeah, I know. He crashed on the last corner, and then who's the dude that died a couple of years ago? DW.
Dan Weldon.
Dan Weldon, that's it. Yeah, he went along and won his second Indy 500.
Right.
That was years ago when I reported on that.
That was a while ago. All right, fine. So we've established for the people that they have no idea what we're talking about, and we've not done this in a while, possibly ever.
Yes, and this is new territory for us. Assume, because we know nothing about Grand Prix, we know even less about this.
It's true. You thought the bounds of our ignorance were impressive before. If I may quote Game of Thrones, you know nothing. Because we don't.
No, this is... Should we actually be doing this? I'm wondering. But yes, I think we should be, because I feel it's the Alonso Tour. This is the only reason why we're actually doing this.
It is the only... I mean, hell, there were other Formula One drivers in here, but the only one we care about was Alonso, damn it.
Yeah, god damn it. And he's the only one who impressed us, really, wasn't it? Oh, yeah, that's right. Something else happened, didn't it? Yeah.
Other things happen, but we'll get to that in due course. But I think what we're trying to say is, while typically our casts don't really have much of a structure, this one's going to have even less of one.
Yeah.
So buckle up, bios.
Yeah. This is two idiots talking about a sport they dip into occasionally. And that's about it. Just to warn you, if you are disturbed by swearing or immaturity or stupid people, then you're probably better off turning off right now. Listen to something else.
I can promise you this much. There'll be less swearing in this one than our Monaco Grand Prix cast.
Yes, because that was, in your words, utter guff.
Yes, quite.
I nearly said it in my words, but no, I didn't find it utter guff. I thought it was all right.
Well, I thought that the Indy 500, was the anti-Monaco Grand Prix.
Yeah.
As in, everything that was wrong with Monaco was not here. I mean, I won't say issues, but there were things about Monaco and IndyCar which, as an outsider, I go, it's not really for me. But still, did you see, there were cars overtaken?
Yeah.
In fact, I counted 12 separate cars led this race at one time or another.
Really?
And most of them passed on the track.
Yeah, you have that opportunity too, though, don't you?
What, in Formula One?
No, in this.
Oh, in this you do, yeah.
To pass on the track.
I was going to say, 12 different leaders in a Formula One race? Surely you jest, sir.
No, I think that's over a course of a season, isn't it?
Possibly, if
and
you're
lucky.
lucky.
You won't even get the different leaders over a course of a season. It'll be shared between 6, I'd say.
Yes.
My God, it sounds so dull, doesn't it?
Like I said, so we'll get into this a bit more because, we are all new to IndyCar, we're assuming. Mm-hmm. You listening might be an expert and you might be going, these foolish British people, they know nothing. And you would be right. But join us on our journey now as we travel from this fair and pleasant land, these green pastures, across the pond, across the Atlantic to Indianapolis, where we will talk about Indy 500. So named, I learnt, because it's 500 miles long.
Did you not know that?
Did not. Thought it was 500 laps. Now I know.
It's a 2.5 mile circuit, 500 miles. 200 laps.
Well, you see, now I know. And knowing is half a battle. Would you like to know what the other half is? It's typically violence.
Fair play. Which we're getting used to around here, I'd imagine.
Ooh, a bit close to a bone there. Let's move on very quickly.
Oh.
Keep walking. Don't make eye contact. Right. So, Elton, do you want to tell us all a little bit about what do you know about IndyCar?
What do I know about IndyCar? God, I know. Ooh.
Do you follow it? Do you have favourite drivers? Do you have favourite teams?
Right, yes, I do have a favourite driver straight off the bat.
Right.
That is Will Power. Why?
Is that because of his name?
No. I felt everyone...
But if his name was Max, I'm pretty sure it would be.
Well, we had Scott Speed in Formula One, didn't we, for a little while?
Yeah, but we saw how well that worked.
Yeah. But, okay, yeah, the one racing at the moment, apart from Montoya, because, he dips in and out, it's going to be Will Power. Also, you got Pippa Mann there as well, which I know of. And she's raced in the Indy 500 a couple of times and done a couple of other circuits as well.
Yes, and a Brit from fair old Londinium, no less.
Well, I think she's from Ipswich.
Oh, well, we won't hold back against her.
Well, yeah, it's better than Norwich. So
it's true.
At least it's not Norwich. Ipswich is just slightly better than Norwich. What do I know? Well, I'll tell you a little bit about my history about this. Because when I fell in love with Formula One, I think IndyCar was on Eurosport, and you could watch it for free because if you had Sky, then you had Eurosport, and then you could just watch it. And I used to record it and then watch it back in the mornings, and thoroughly loved it. And there was a couple of circuits I remember. Definitely one. There was one around an airport, which was amazing. It's flat as anything, but I thoroughly enjoyed that one. I think that was one of my very first ones I watched, a full race of proper IndyCar. Then I think when Mansell went over there, I learnt a bit more. It was on Channel 4, so we got a lot more highlights of his adventures over in America. I was heavily into Formula One by then. And my coverage waned because you never quite knew exactly what channel it would be on over here on the satellite channels.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, it was on Sky Sports 4 for a couple of seasons. And when I could, I obviously watched the Formula One, but when I had time after that, i.e. doing washing up and other stuff, I would dip into it when I could and really enjoyed just watching it. But I didn't really take a massive chunk of knowledge away from that. It was just, okay, I recognize his name. That's about it. And that's really my very brief history. I've been saddened when certain people have died in there, as you would be, but it happens more frequently than it does in the F1. But I've always held a love of the power of these cars. I'm not so much a fan of the look of them nowadays, but
I was going to get onto the look of the cars in a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll get over that in a sec.
Yeah.
I mean, just to give you my background for IndyCar, I followed it briefly in '93, like yourself, after Mansell went over there, because all of a sudden it was on terrestrial because we weren't posh enough to have satellite TV growing up. Yeah. Had to make do with 4 channels. Luxury.
How the hell did you get away with that? I do not know.
I have no idea. But yeah, so we had the occasional kart highlights, as it was back in the day, with Mansell, who won the championship in '93, and to this day is the only driver in history who was both simultaneously the Formula One and kart championship at the same time.
Yes.
So there you go. That's a useless bit of trivia, but that was it. And again, I kind of, it was always kind of at the periphery of my knowledge. I kind of knew it was going on still. When Dan is it Weldon or Whedon?
Dan
Weldon, isn't it? Dan Weldon was tragically killed. I kind of came a bit more aware of it at that point, just because it was in the news, because he was a British driver, and also with the new cars, which again we'll get onto in just a second. But yeah, that was kind of it. I mean, for me, the biggest problem is it's not really anywhere accessible for me to watch regularly. If it was on one of the Sky Sports channels, I'd do that. But I dropped BT because the only reason I was keeping that was the MotoGP.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't be bothered with that, not paying what it was just for that. So it's bad enough. I literally only have Sky for Formula One. So keeping BT for the MotoGP at the same time, it was just silly. But yeah, I mean, we both made an effort to check out for this race, the Indy 500. Shall we talk a little bit about what's the difference between IndyCar and Formula One, aside from the fact that one is American and one is predominantly not?
Yeah, okay. Well, one is more exciting than the other one. I know that for a fact. There was a time when I would have argued over that point, over which one was which, but I think we're both on the same page as to which one's which. Yeah. I suppose the biggest difference is, so as I understand it, IndyCar is a single make formula, i.e. all the chassis are made by Dallara, I think, maybe Lola, but still, they're all single make chassis. There are two engines available, the Honda and the Chevy. Yep. And
then the teams are responsible for individual aero packages, is it?
Yeah, I get a bit confused on that, because I know that there are certain aero tweaks that certain cars have.
But largely, the cars are stock, as it were. You buy them as a kit. You get your chassis. Chassis are all the same. You choose your engine. You choose your aero kit. Bob's your uncle's fanny arts. Off you go. As far as the series as a whole goes, we always think it as just ovals, but they do have street circuits in IndyCar, don't they?
Yeah. Quite a few.
Quite a few. Typically more runners than Formula One. I mean, at IndyCar, which has more than usual anyway, there were, 33 runners in total? But I think typically we're talking in the mid to high 20s for a typical race.
Yeah, I'd like to say yes. I'm not too sure, but I know that the Indy 500 drags in more players, crying out loud, more competitors.
Right. Yeah, I just had a look. The previous race to a 22 entrants, so just a couple more than Formula One at the minute. So yeah, that's kind of where we are. You've got a lot. It's not as American dominated as you might think on the driver standpoint. There's quite a few Kiwis take place in here.
Yep.
Scott Dixon, he's from New Zealand. You got Will Power from Australia.
Yep.
Your guy. A few French guys, Canadians, Colombians, both Juan Pablo Montoya and Carlos Munoz. So yeah, I mean, again, it's quite a well represented worldwide one. Quite a few Brits in there as well. You often find Formula One drivers who either have left Formula One because they had one or two seats in the Manas or the Toro Rossos, didn't move up, so they've moved over to IndyCar.
Yeah.
Or you've got drivers who, like Montoya, like Takuma Sato, who have been deemed too old for Formula One effectively and have gone back to IndyCar and are still racing at the top end. So that's good.
Yeah, definitely.
And the big difference I noted was these cars can follow closely and overtake.
Yes. They can follow very closely.
Oh, so close. Maybe too close in a couple of instances. But, we'll get up to that in a minute. But yeah, very close. A couple of touches I do like. I like the number above the roll hoop.
The LED one?
The LED one, because it not only tells you their position on the track, but when they pit, it gives you the countdown for how long the pit stop is.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah. So when we get into the pits, it turns green and it counts down how many seconds they're stationary for.
See, that's the Americans at their best, isn't it? It's all about the sport general. And all about keeping everyone up to date with the sport.
No, it's not the sport. It's the spectacle. And I was going to come on to it. We may as well about it now. The spectacle, and I don't know if this is the same of every Indy car or just the Indy 500, But I mean, there was like an hour's worth of pre-show, and we get an hour's worth of pre-show for Formula One. But to be honest, a lot of that is just Sky marking time effectively.
Mm-hmm.
But this was events. You have the drivers are introduced one by one sort of thing. They all come out like row by row, rather. They come out and are introduced. They wave and everything like that. You've got celebrities driving the pace car. You had bloody what's his name from Walking Dead.
I can see him driving the car right now.
You know, but anyway, my
Negan.
point is
It was the guy who plays Negan.
He was the comedian in Watchmen as well.
Yes.
You had him driving the pace car. You had Jake Gyllenhaal and some survivor from the Boston bombings waving the green flag to get the race going. I love the spectacle as well at the beginning. And I seem to recall this was a bit different in previous years, but you have the guy goes up and he goes, drivers, start your engines. And then they all fire up the engines. I seem to recall, though, it used to be more of a staged thing where you'd have it row by row, they'd fire up. And it just built to this beautiful cacophony, which was awesome. This time around, though, they just kind of seemed to all start. But I noticed as well, the cars are a lot more isolated. They're not on life support like you see with Formula One cars. The pit crews largely have walked away by this point. Well, and I actually think the cars have starters of their own.
Yes,
because they didn't have the electric starters up the axes to start them up. Which, again, it's quite nice. Just seeing, you can see the cars properly. They come to life in front of you, which is kind of cool. Just as a side note, from the back, these cars look a lot like LMP cars.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
And from the front, they look like it's like you got the back of an LMP and the front of maybe a GP2 car and kind of smushed them together.
It's the way that the rear wheels have been shrouded. Which I do like.
Below fins as well.
Yeah, and I like the idea behind it. I like the safety behind it as well. Would I accept it in Formula One? I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, it's strange that they only shroud the rear wheels, and not. I would have thought they might have done something like they did with Formula E, to shroud the front wheels. But
yeah.
Again, we'll get onto that in a bit. But yeah, so I like the spectacle in the build-up. I mean, I liked when they go out and do like 2 parade laps, it seemed like. And then you got the truck towing the big American flag along behind them.
I've never seen that.
To mock. It's easy for us to mock, but I tell you what, they fucking love it over there. The crowd is going wild while this thing's... And as a visual spectacle, it's amazing. Seeing that driving along behind them.
I think that's some of it, though, isn't it? Because we do love to take the piss a little bit about the Americans and the way that they showboat about absolutely everything, and everything is so wonderful over there and everything is so grim and dull and boring and moany over here. And because they like to showboat and put on a show for you, we tend to shy away from it and go, oh no, that's not the way it should be done. And I feel that is the British in us. Or the English.
There's a certain amount of that there, but just as a managed spectacle, the beginning of the IndyCar or of the 500 was just spectacular to behold. It was well choreographed. Again, there was a sense of occasion to it all, a sense of ceremony, which was great, and I really enjoyed that, which was cool. Again, just when the car started up. You've got cameras on top of the roll hoops, which give you a 360 view.
Yep.
Which the spectators can, not the commentators can steer effectively. So when you've got passing going on, you can see and you can follow that entire pass, which was really cool. It's a great little feature.
I'd like to say that's why Formula One haven't adopted them, because there's not a lot of passing going on there.
It's entirely possible that is the case. But we'll get onto that. We'll get onto that. But yeah, just in terms of just watching this as my first kind of Indy 500 to watch it, I did appreciate all these differences, and it was such a tonic after guffing Monaco Grand Prix last time out. Bearing in mind that the Triple Crown being Monaco, the Indy 500, and the Le Mans 24-hour. It's almost like the Indy 500 is the medium between the two, because the the Le Mans 24 hour, it's 24 hours. That's a big investment in time and everything there.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people do it. The Formula One race, it's what, an hour and a half, 2 hours. This was 3 hours, I think, including the stops.
Yes, 3 hours 13.
Yeah. I mean, if I had a complaint, it would probably be I felt it ran a little bit too long. Just towards the end, I was like, this is entertaining still, but I got shit I want to do.
Right, okay.
But so yeah, so that was my IndyCar experience, as it were. All in all, I'm with you on the cars. I'm not entirely sure about the look of them, at least off of the get-go, but I got used to them very quickly. Didn't have a problem. I mean, like, you have the yellow numbers for rookie drivers, red numbers for everyone else. So it's very quick to tell if they're coming up against a rookie or not.
Yep.
I never doubted, and I never had a minute where I was like, I'm not sure who this is. I could always tell. And equally, I could always tell what position, what was going on from my onboard camera, because I just had to look at the digital display and I'm like, okay, fine. I can see he's in third. He's just passed me. Okay, now he's in second. I get that. Although they only update that number on the lap. So every time we cross the line, it gets updated.
It's very well laid out. It's very intuitive. You are always kept up to date. The commentators, I thought, were very good as well, keeping you up to date.
They were very, very up to date. I mean, it was no Crofty and Davidson, who to my mind are the best commentary duo we've ever had. But yeah, it was very up to date. Again, there was a lot of Americanisms in there. There was periods where they would go quiet for like 5 minutes because they've gone off on an ad break, but the feed's still running. And then it was just a bit weird. Stuff's happening and no one's talking about it. And then all of a sudden they say, we're back here. And I'm like, oh, you're back now.
So am I allowed to ask, how did you watch this?
One acquired it through the internet.
Okay, fair play.
Again, as I said, I don't have BT Sport anymore, so I can't watch it on that.
Yep.
And your good self was very kind to provide me with a YouTube link, which stopped working after the day. So.
Oh no! Did it?
Yeah, but it's okay. One acquired it.
Good man. Good. Yeah. Well, as you just said, I saw it on YouTube, and do you know what? I don't think I would have been able to find it anywhere else. I struggled. I think once I'd seen it. But
yeah,
for posterity, and do you know what? We like motorsports in general over here, and not to have the Indy 500, unless it was on BT Sports, which I didn't even check because I don't have it. I've never had that. I wouldn't really know where to look after it left the Sky Sports package. Then I really don't know. I really lost track of it. But,
yeah, it's a shame. I mean, BT Sport, they carry ESPN basically, so it's the American feed. But we will have a discussion off cast, and I will hook you up.
Shh. No, he won't. Honestly,
honest Gov, he won't.
Honest Gov, no. And if our government ever hear about that, they'll shut it all down. Oh God, I've gone political already.
Yes,
Nuts.
yes. Back up, step away, step back. Okay, so obviously the big impetus of us doing this cast is one Mr. F. Alonso.
Yep.
Decided, you know what? I don't fancy sitting around at the very back of the Monaco Grand Prix for 78 sodding laps behind Pascal Wehrlein. I'm going to go and do something fun instead. So he decided to go off to do the Indy 500 to get the Triple Crown.
Yep.
The Triple Crown being the Monaco Grand Prix, the Indy 500 and the Le Mans 24 Hour, which I believe only 2 other drivers in history have achieved.
I know Graham Hill has it. I'm struggling to remember who else has got it.
I want to say it's 2. I could be wrong. If we hang about, man looks up thing on internet.
Go for it, mate.
Let's see. Yeah, so Graham Hill is the only driver to have done it. Yeah, so there you go. So yeah, he's trying to emulate Graham Hill, and I have to say, on the strength of what we saw last week, Alonso made the right choice.
Yes.
McLaren teamed up with Andretti Honda Motorsport.
Yep.
And they fielded a McLaren branded Honda Andretti car. What I thought was a very nice touch is they actually used all the same sponsors from their Formula One car at no extra charge to their sponsors. Kind of a, we're sorry we suck, so have a free Indy 500 entry.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was.
But the Indy 500, the Andretti entry, I think is prettier than the McLaren that we've got in Formula One. That is the colour that they should have got. I know I've already said this before, but
it's so pretty. I also like it's got the speedy Kiwi on the front of the nose.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
Unplug your mic, plug it back in, because we're getting to that time now where it's going all crackly.
There you go.
That's better.
So yeah, it's got the speedy Kiwi on the front, which is awesome. Which was a nice little touch. But yeah, it looked so good, and it stood out as well, which was great. I mean, you had Zach Brown came over as well from McLaren, and was on the pit wall, because this is where he comes from, isn't it? This is his. He raced IndyCar and everything before he came to McLaren.
Well, rumor has it he was largely influential to this actually happening, and it was kind of a sweetener to keep Alonso happy at McLaren. Oh yeah,
and it's got to be said, anything you can do to try and keep Alonso happy at this point, you kind of have to do, because just on the strength of his season so far, and on this strength, I would go as far to say as Fernando Alonso is currently the best driver in the world right now.
Right. Which also, didn't Hamilton say something about that as well? He had a few choice words to say, which I think today or yesterday were knocked down by Graham Rahal.
I don't know.
No? Okay. Well, there was an interview with Hamilton, I think before the Monaco Grand Prix, asking about Alonso going over to Indy to take part in this race.
Yeah.
And he turned around and flatly turned around and said, Alonso, yeah, he's going to be all right. He's going to be fine. He's going to be rocking up and showing them who's boss. And to a large extent, I feel he did. I didn't feel he was the greatest out there at the time or at times, but he showed he has what it takes to get this Triple Crown. And I think the way that Hamilton put it, it was very derogatory towards everyone that races in Indy 500 and IndyCar as a series. And Graham Rahal turned around in an interview this weekend, I think it was, and said, well, if you're rocking up and you're racing, all you got to worry about is either one Ferrari and your teammate, then you really haven't got much of a challenge going on there. You try rocking up and you've got 21 other drivers going for it, which they are all capable of winning. And then you've got a series on your hands. And
yeah.
And I totally agree with him for saying that. And it takes someone to say that to you to realise, hang on, yeah, do you know what? He's right. He's so right. And
I mean, hell, Hamilton was throwing his toys out of his pram last year when he was merely the second fastest car on the grid.
Yeah, out the two cars that could win the race, and yet he's sulking about that. Get him over here. He'd be finishing 5th, 10th, 20th, 2nd, 1st, all over the show, and that is a true signal that a series has some luck in it, also some skill in it as well, and you can never rest on your laurels.
No, I mean, you got to say this about Alonso. Whether or not it's true or not, he did to a certain extent put his reputation on the line by doing this.
Mm-hmm.
In Formula One, I think it's generally accepted that he is one of the best drivers on the grid at the minute. What's holding him back is the car, or more specifically, the engine.
Yeah.
Whereas going over to Monaco, to IndyCar, it's like, well, if he was foundering around 20th, I mean, again, all respect to Jenson Button, but he was back of the grid for the entire time at Monaco, and we know Jenson can do it. I feel that not massively, but it did somewhat hurt the expectation of him. We expect him to be doing a lot better. Whereas Alonso, running at the front, he led for 28 laps, I think it was in total, had the highest average speed. And again, he was, you could see throughout the course of the race, he was learning all the time. He was getting better. There was one point where he went to do a pass with someone, went up high, and the commentators were like, going, no, don't do that. And it was almost like he'd heard them because he just kind of backed off, waited, took his moment, took the guy at the next corner.
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's a weight of experience, and intelligence there, which is great to watch. And yeah, for a fact that Alonso won a huge amount of fans there. I don't think he'd want to do the series. I don't think the series is what he'd be interested in because, frankly, the IndyCar Championship is not as prestigious as the Formula One one. But the Indy 500, he could go back next year and he'll be treated not only as an equal, he'll be feared as a legitimate threat.
I feel if he managed to get the Triple Crown, then I think the Indy title itself would be up for grabs for him, and he'd be interested in that. And age doesn't really seem to play a major factor in this either, because it is
certainly not as much.
Not as much, no. And it's more down to talent and skill and a dash of luck as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, hell, Juan Pablo Montoya, when did he last race in Formula One? That'd been 2000 and...
Oh, I'm going to...
6.
Yeah, I was going to say 6.
So, yeah. So he's not raced in Formula One for 11 years.
Yeah.
And he's still going strong in IndyCar. He's still winning.
Well, he nearly took the title. Was it last year or the year before?
Yeah.
22nd.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, age is a lot less. And I think a lot of that is down to there's just more seats available.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. So anyway, yeah, Fernando Alonso at IndyCar, that was great. Should we, anyone else particularly want to talk about, or shall we talk about the race a little bit?
Well, I'd like to talk about Sebastian Bourdais before anything else happens.
Yes, because he had a rather nasty incident in, was it qualifying or practice?
I'm gonna say qualifying.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Hang on, let me just check. That's practice. That's practice. Second day practice. I can't see him on there. Oh no, maybe it was in practice somewhere. Yeah, Sebastian Bourdais.
We'll just say to everyone listening. So it just even there's a week's worth of run up to the Indy 500. A lot more wild cards and rookies here. So unlike in Formula One, where you're in for the entire season for the most part,
yeah,
here you get drivers showing up just for this race, as we saw with Alonso.
Well, this was he had his accident on the first day of the time trials, which was Saturday, May the 20th.
Yeah, but I was just going to say, so yeah, from Saturday. Well, wait, there's the first practice is May 15th.
Mm-hmm.
And then every day that week there is a practice up until Fast Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the time trials, like you said, which is the Saturday and the Sunday. And then you have post-qualifying practice, something called Carb Day practice, and then the race itself. So yeah, there's a lot more going on in the run-up to the race.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if this is something typical for all IndyCar races or just for the 500. I think just
it's
the 500.
Just the 500, yeah, because it's such a box office event that you have here.
It's also a lot longer than I think a typical IndyCar race. I think typically IndyCar races are more, 85 laps was, so previous to this, it was the IndyCar Grand Prix, which was on the old Formula One circuit,
mm-hmm.
and that was 85 laps. So, yeah, that's a lot less than this.
I'm trying to remember what the Formula One, how many laps that was. I don't think it was 81. I have to look that up sometime. I'm not going to look it up now. I can't be bothered. We're not here for Formula One. We're here for this.
Yes, we're here for this.
So yeah, Sebastian Bourdais had an almighty crash. And I caught this because I had one ear to the ground about the Indy 500. It was on the news, and the news worldwide was just keeping a tap on Alonso and what was going on. and it was mentioned on some report about a French dude flipping his car. And I know Sebastian Bourdais, he was in Toro Rosso, but before that, I think he was champion 4 times. He was proper dominant.
Was very well. Absolutely, yeah. He was. I mean, he was described as the Michael Schumacher of champ cars at some point.
Yeah, that's because he was bossing it. He really was. And then I think you had Frankie to take over him, and he won it 4 times. He's won the Indy 500 3 times, I think. I hope that I'm right in thinking that as well. But yeah, he had a spectacular crash where he ended up losing it, gathering it all together, and then just pile driving straight into the wall. It ended up rolling over, and he ended up flying to hospital, having surgery that night on broken legs, broken hip, and broken pelvis. So
yeah, it was a bit of a mess. Oh, that being said, though, he posted a picture like the next day of him on crutches.
Yeah, I know, walking out the hospital.
It's like, the fuck, dude.
Yeah, they build them tough over there.
Oh god, yeah. But yeah, he unfortunately, because he'd been quite fast in some of the practices, he was viewed as a potential race winner.
Well, he'd won the opening event of this season anyway, which was quite a surprise.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was a nasty crash. And yeah, it'll probably put him out for the rest of the season, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So Esteban Gutierrez will be taking his place.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting. So who took his place in the race? I'm just trying to remember. I know someone did, and it was car number 8. Was it 18?
I think they have personal numbers rather than car numbers.
Hang on, I know it because he was involved in one of the crashes.
James Davidson.
That's it. Was he involved in one? Yeah. Oh, okay. No, he ended up in the crash at the very end. Yeah.
Yes.
And James Davidson, he was hanging around the garages. He was one of these drivers that had turned up, and he was okay, if someone turns up with a team running one car, I'm here ready for you, waiting. Or if something happens to someone, I'm here ready for you, waiting. And he ended up jumping in his place.
It's kind of like a reserve driver with no affiliation.
Yeah, but it is such a dangerous track. You are more than likely to end up with someone hurting themselves, injured. It's bloody dangerous, man. It is so dangerous. We go into Formula One not expecting any danger like this.
Well, again, with the exception of the tragic loss of who was Suzuka?
Bianchi,
Jules Bianchi, which again was a year after the fact. Effectively, there's not been a death in Formula One since Senna in '94. IndyCar, okay, not necessarily the Indy 500, but I mean, it's not a surprise if you go a season and you've lost 2 drivers, and often it's big names potentially. Because I mean, the most recent big name I think of was Dan Weldon, wasn't it? Which was at Phoenix in 2013.
That was in Vegas.
Was it Vegas?
Yeah, it was in Vegas because there was arguments about there being too many cars on track.
It was Vegas. Track. That was 2011, so it was actually even further long ago than I thought. Yeah. But yeah, again, it was tragic, but again, it's not unheard of for drivers to die in IndyCar.
Yeah,
it's not liked. It's no one likes happening at all. But I think it's more accepted as part of the risk.
Well, last year we had Justin Wilson, passing away after he struck a nose cone.
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you what, in the Scott Dixon crash, which was the big one, lap 53, I think it was.
Yeah.
I was watching that back. It's a nasty, nasty crash, and we'll talk a bit more about it in a second. But I noticed the wheel came very close to hitting him, and the suspension actually entered the cockpit.
Oh, did it?
It does, yeah.
Right, okay, I haven't noticed that. So, I've seen many shots. There are frame-by-frame shots, but I haven't seen that.
No, there's an onboard shot as he's sideways, and the wishbones are effectively in his lap.
Jesus.
So, yeah. Anyway, shall we get on to the race then?
Yeah, why not? Let's go for it.
So, as we've already mentioned, the spectacle here, the whole start your engines, very cool. All rolling starts here, isn't it? I think rolling starts work here because IndyCar's all about speed. It's all about your top speed. You plant your foot, you keep it planted.
Yeah.
As a rule, though, I still prefer standing starts.
I do. I feel ovals, as you say, they're all about average top speeds, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And sub 50-second laps as well. And to have a standing start on this grid where 50 seconds later you could have cars coming at you, or a field of cars coming at you, and someone's stalled
you're right.
on the grid.
You could literally have the leaders running into the back of the tail enders there.
Yeah.
And I think it works for here, you know, with the spectacle, with them following the pace car and everything. That's all fine. But no, I certainly don't think rolling starts are right for Formula One.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the start was pretty unspectacular outside of, you know, what you'd expect to happen, and then they were off. For me, again, you know, there's a certain amount of, again, that snobbishness of, oh, they're just turning left, and he's turning left, and he's turning left. But there's a lot more to it, partly because of just how wide the circuit is. And, you know, there's a very distinct racing line visible very early on. And again, you've got marbles and everything off that line where you've got a lot less grip, a lot less downforce there. Plus, because these cars can follow, they can get into the slipstream, they can, you know, draft up behind you and overtake you. You literally have to have two eyes in your mirrors at all time. In fact, it's almost like they don't really need to be looking ahead of them so much as they need to be looking behind them. Although they did mention at one point there's windsocks at either end, and the drivers would be looking at those as they go into the corners just to get a sense of where the wind is.
Yeah.
And how it's going to affect, which again is cool. Also, spotters, something, you know, I'm not familiar with out of Formula One, but they have two spotters feeding them information as they go along about who's passing them, which side, whether to go high or low if there's a crash, where the debris is and everything like that. So
you couldn't have that in Formula One. They'd be moaning about spotters on the phone all the time.
Well, it's not that. It's just they wouldn't be able to drive the bloody cars because, again, they have to be told how to drive these cars by the engineers. So the spotter would be warning. Well, as we've already established, there's no passing in Formula One, so it doesn't matter. But you'd be telling him to go to brake bias set 6, fuel mixture 9, and all of a sudden Ricardo's come past from the inside.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it kind of settled in to a rhythm quite early on, didn't it? You know, but again, I was quite impressed at how close the pack stays together for the most part.
But there's none of this thought of, oh, I'm going to win the race in the first corner. Everyone knows they've by the end of the first
it's
lap,
the marathon, not the sprint, isn't it?
Yeah, they've got so far to go, and you could drop to the very back of this pack and still make your way back up. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. You've got a long race ahead of you. Even 100 laps in, you've still got a chance. You just don't know what's around the corner, which so happens to be a left-hand corner. But I feel that
followed by another one.
Well, where a good way to describe these comparison between Formula One. Formula One would be, the cars would be like the Red Bull Air Show, where you have these very nimble airplanes going through loop-the-loops and little circles and doing a course. Whereas these are the F-18s, and they are just right foot down constantly. And it is so precise on how to get around this circuit. It's unbelievable, and you really have to sit down and watch a race to really understand what they're going through.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Again, there's a definite rhythm that starts to establish, because again, one of the things, not so much these days, but certainly in the past, I love the more strategic elements of it. Drivers can go longer, who doesn't pit under a safety car, who could go a bit longer. We don't really get that anymore because there's a winning strategy and you're either on that strategy or you're not going to win.
Yeah.
But again, because this is a largely even playing field, there is no massive disparity between the Honda and the Chevy engine. There's no massive aero budget from Red Bull. There's no massive kickbacks to Ferrari. Like you say, there were 33 cars on that grid, and theoretically any one of those could have won.
Yeah.
It was all down to the driver, really, to make the most of it. And that was exciting as well, because, again, it really came down to the last 6 laps to decide who won.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, it's like anyone who was on that lead lap had a chance of winning then, which was great, which was fantastic. But yeah, we kind of settled in. Again, a lot of my attention was on Alonso because, he's our guy from Formula One.
Yeah.
Seeing what he can do. And again, I think off the start, he kind of fell back a little bit. But he just sat there. He settled in, got a feel for the car, feel for the circuit, a feel for running in the pack, which isn't really something he's had a chance to do much of. Certainly not under racing conditions. And then once he felt confident, he started passing people. And it was just like, come on, boy, you can do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know how much pack running or multi-car running they do during their practices. I know that they have a couple of days where the rookies have to set the bench and get to a certain point and work their way up. And pack racing must be so different to single lap racing. And he did the sensible thing of starting and realizing he's not going to win it in the very first corner.
Yeah.
And then just pacing himself, getting into a rhythm, because this race is all about a rhythm.
This reminded me a lot more of a MotoGP race in that respect, because you often see it, certainly in his peak with Valentino Rossi and all that. It didn't matter really where he qualified. And it didn't really matter where he was for the first 3 laps. He'd get going, find the rhythm, find that kind of mental pace where he was comfortable, and then he'd start carving through the grid.
Yeah.
Whereas in Formula One, if you're not in the lead in the first corner, odds are you're not going to win the race.
Yeah.
It's just the fact of life in Formula One, especially at bloody Monaco.
Yeah. But it was nice to see everyone getting into that. And there was an atmosphere as well, wasn't there? You could feel the atmosphere coming through.
Yeah, I don't know if that was specifically because of Alonso being there and I was just tuned into it, or if it's always like that. But yeah, it definitely kind of, again, had that sense of spectacle, which was great. I
get the feeling, having Alonso there, it was a buzz for him, and having a totally different type of media sticking their nose in, and they had full access as well, didn't they? They
well,
do
apparently,
tend to have
yeah. I don't know what the exact numbers were, but in terms of viewers, it blew away last year's Indy 500.
Right.
Completely blew away the Monaco Grand Prix in terms of people watching it.
Yeah.
And everything like that. But yeah, again, it was a massive boon for both IndyCar in terms of getting eyes on. And again, it was a chance for IndyCar to effectively, they had F1 royalty there effectively.
Yes, yeah.
which was great. And they put on a great show. He put on a great show. It was fantastic. I mean, I would dearly love this become a more regular thing.
Yeah.
And again, I think I said this, not the last cast, I think the cast before that. I'd like to see the other way as well. I'd like to see more opportunities for wildcards to come into Formula One and get Scott Dixon to come and race a wildcard in a Formula One race at some time. Spa, can you imagine that? That'd be fucking amazing.
That'd be awesome. I'd flipping love that.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, to get many of these drivers crossing over, I'd be so up for that. But that's not down to us yet.
It's not down to us yet, but I think that possibly is the way Liberty Media want to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, the race starts, we kind of settle into a bit of a rhythm, Alonso finding his feet, testing his thing. We get into it. I'm not going to say nothing happened because a lot did happen, but we're not going to go into it all now because A, we don't know everyone who was racing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really have favourite teams and stuff like that. And B, the race was like 3 hours long. We ain't got time to do all that. So we're just going to skip to lap 53, where we had our first incident, shall we say. Now, our first caution, which was a humongous crash between Scott Dixon and who was the other chap? Jay Howard.
Jay Howard, yeah.
Yeah. So Jay Howard, he drifted out on the marbles into turn 1 and hit the wall, broke both his front suspension, and then he's just a passenger, and he's coming down. And then you listen on the replay, you hear the spotters shouting to Scott Dixon, saying, "Go low, go low, go low," but it's too late.
Yeah.
And he collides with the rear quarter of Howard's car and is just launched. It's very reminiscent of Mark Webber in Valencia.
Yep.
You know, he went airborne and he came crashing down on the inside fence, because that's something else you get here. You have spectators on the outside and the inside of the circuit.
Yeah.
So it hit the catch fence, hit the wall. It vivisected the car. The car was split in half. It's like the safety cell was fine. The engine was actually still in the car because you could see the Honda.
Yes.
But the gearbox and the back of that car went God knows where. And came to rest on the circuit. And what was amazing is how well oiled the machine is at that point. Because as soon as that happened, instantly there was 2 safety trucks which pulled up behind the cars, which I'm assuming is to act as crash barriers effectively.
Yep.
To protect them. And instantly all of the cars filed into pit lane and just came to a stop in the order they'd raced in, basically. So the race was red flag so they could clear up the mess.
Yeah.
Firstly, everyone was okay, which was great. That was what we wanted to see. I was a little disturbed at how easily Scott Dixon seemed to get airborne, because I'm pretty sure a lot of the reason they went with the enclosed wheels on the rear was to try and stop cars being launched.
I think what happened, it was very much, it reminded me of the Zanardi crash where he lost his legs and he got T-boned, and he didn't go over the rear wheel. He went over the side pod of Howard. And so I think maybe with the wheels being lost, they lose it maybe a couple of centimetres on height. It's dropped down ever so slightly, and that is what's launched him.
Okay.
He didn't go over the rear wheels. There are many pictures online of him being launched off the side pod. And I think it's a speed differential. Either you're going to get it T-bone in and like a dart into a dartboard, or you're going to spear off somewhere. You're going to ricochet. And I think that's what's launched him. It's just...
I'll tell you what, 5 years ago, that was a fatal accident.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at the trash now here again. It's not the launch that's scary, and it's not even really hitting the wall that's scary. It's how quickly he decelerates when he hits it, because he kind of goes in rearwards. The car does a kind of 2-axis 180 flip, and it just kind of comes to a really sudden stop, which is just, it's terrifying. Like I said, though, what for me was very scary is watching the replays again. The wheel enters the suspension enters the cockpit. Mm-hmm. You can see that. That I don't know if everyone is aware, that's what killed Senna. Mm-hmm. It was the suspension arm piercing his helmet. So anytime I see that, I don't like it. And if he'd have just landed a couple of inches further forward, it would have been his head coming down on top of that safety barrier, not the hoop. So having a look at this crash, it's great he walked away and he was absolutely fine. But I think once again, they need to put canopies on these cars.
Okay. I think he dodged a bullet on this crash. Really did. And where I say that is where he came down like you said, if it had been a couple of inches left or right, or his car had moved ever so slightly, he would have been landing on that barrier head first.
Yeah.
And that would have killed him outright. Now, his car also hits a barrier at the catchment fence as well, because it ripped the catchment fence as well, didn't it? And that's why they had to stop to repair that as well.
That was the main reason for the stop, was to repair the fence, yeah.
Yeah. Now, my solution to that would be move the catchment fence a foot forward, so where the barrier leading edge on the racetrack is, then that barrier comes flush down onto that. So you don't have that opportunity of landing on top of a wall, which he almost certainly did.
But the reason you have that there is because that barrier he landed on top of is supposed to be absorbing. If you look at it, you have the hard outer barrier and then you have a lot of airbag.
Yeah.
It's because the catch fence, to be strong, has to go into concrete to keep rigidity. You don't want them going, because the odds are the kind of crash you're likely to get is going to be a side into the thing. Yes, you want it to absorb it. What happened, though, is he came down on top of that.
Well, what the problem is,
you can't have it flush, though, because if you have it flush, you've got no strength in the catch fence.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what they need to think about is the tops of them, that the tecto barriers.
Yeah, I think they call it a safety barrier, but it's not safe. It's a weird anagram for something or another.
Yeah, but they need to look at the tops of them barriers, maybe round them off ever so slightly, or make them have a very shallow gradient towards.
Yeah,
they need to do something at that, because that was a curb he was hitting on.
If you have a look at the video I just sent you, and go to 6 minutes 50, just at the collision,
right.
At 6:52, you can see the wheels enter the cockpit there.
Okay, let me have a look at this. You do realise I'm going... Oh, hang on. Right, let me turn the sound off. Right, what are we talking about? 6 minutes 50, yeah?
6 minutes 50, and at 6:52, you can see the wheel enter the cockpit.
Okay.
It was much more visible on the onboard, which, see if I can find that as well. Anyone listening wants to play along, just search for the Jay Howard and Scott Dixon crash on YouTube, and you will find it there. Actually, it's even better if you go to 5 minutes.
Yeah,
you got the onboard, and then at 5:07 you can actually see it again.
Yeah, I've just seen that. That is bonkers, man.
That, you see, look, I know we harped on about this back in Australia last year, I think it was, when Alonso had his big crash. But look, I'm sorry, these cars should be closed cockpit.
That is bonkers. It's such a terrific crash in all sense of the words. It's a spectacle in itself. It's a testament to, and his Scott Dixon's right front does go over the rear wheel.
It basically hits with such speed it collapses that rear bit of aero, that shroud, hits the wheel, and then it's just launched. So it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if, as a result of this, there's another. Because again, after Dan Wilden's death, there was a lot of review. Actually, it wasn't because of Dan's death, though. It was someone else died, and Dan actually helped develop this car as a response to that.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
And if he'd have been in this car when he had his crash, he'd have walked away.
They say that he would have walked away, but he was killed because he hit a pole. Yeah,
I mean, the point is it was a more survivable car. But just looking at that, again, at 5:07, you can see that tyre's gone in. That tyre hit the wrong way there.
Yeah, it has, I didn't realise that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So again, huge testament to the cars. Impressive, but that was really a there but for the grace of God moment, and he was lucky to walk away from that.
Did you see Castro Neves as well? He's on board.
Yeah,
because he's the guy that he's car number 3.
He's the one. He's one just ahead of him, wasn't he?
What? Scott Dixon went over the top of him, And part of the shrapnel that came off of that crash took the rear winglet of Castroneves' off his rear car.
Yeah.
And he said in an interview, he saw him flying over the top of him. There is a beautiful shot. I don't know whether Castroneves is in the air because of the impact or not, or if there's a bump down there. But there's a photo, I think I have it, and I'll try and send it over to you, of Dixon up in the air and Castroneves looks like he's jumping over a bump. And it's
doing his General Lee impression.
Yeah, it is. He is. I'm hot-footing myself out of here impression. It's so impressive. But yeah, it's how the hell he walked away from that, I do not know.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That was our first big crash. And this was my first real chance to see what red flag sort of situation is in IndyCar. So like I said, Alonso was in the lead at this point. He just passed Alexander Rossi for the lead. Mm-hmm. And they all just, oh yeah, I see. Wow, he is airborne there.
He is, isn't he?
Oh, well, you've got your banner.
Oh, I've already got that sorted out. Don't worry. That's the reason why I've got that photo.
Anyway, they kind of tootle down the pit lane and they just stop in the order they enter in. But unlike in Formula One, where the second the cars come to a stop, they're swarmed by the mechanics. You get those little tents pop up, drivers are out and off to go and have a pee and stuff like, because they know they ain't going anywhere for like next 40 minutes, what have you.
Yeah.
The drivers stay in the car. The only thing you see is a couple of them brought umbrellas over and put them over the drivers because of the heat. Mm-hmm. That was it. And again, it was just amazing how self-sufficient these cars are compared to Formula One. And then again, when it was time for restart, pace car took the place out in the front, led them all out, got them up to speed, and off they went.
And yeah, Alonso was in the lead of this as well, wasn't he? So he was having his first restart, as you said. Mm-hmm. And he did an impressive job.
He did, yeah.
No one
got the jump on him off. No one got the jump on him straight off of that either, which you would expect.
Well, it's not. When Mansell went over there, restarts like this were a new thing to him. This is not a new thing to Alonso. There was a lot of research done when Formula One took these restarts on, and people have learned and people know how to deal with it, or you'd like to think that they know how to deal with these. And he's used that experience that he's got, that skill that he's got, and that natural talent he's got as well to keep himself out in front. And how many laps did he lead overall? It was
28, I believe.
Right, okay. That's not bad for a rookie.
Sorry, 27.
Right,
the third most laps led in total.
Yeah. Have you seen who led the most laps? Don't mention it just yet, but oh my God.
Yes, I have, yes.
Flipping hell. What the hell happened there?
I don't know.
Cats and dogs living
together. Mass hysteria.
Exactly, yeah.
So, that was the first incident and the first restart. And again, it kind of just gave us a chance then to settle back into a bit of a rhythm. Again, we had a few instances where Alonso once again would take the lead or would slip back. Had a couple of cautions, but no other stoppages, as I recall. It was mostly just yellow flags where the safety car would take them past any debris while they cleaned it up. Very efficient, though, weren't they, in terms of when there was an incident. The car, that pickup truck would be there. Mm-hmm. They get the driver out. They get that car cleared away, lickety-split.
Yep. That's
then
right.
Off they went.
Yeah, Connor Daly had a bit of a bent incident. I'm trying to remember if he actually collected anyone or not. I'm not too sure.
No, he lost it. It was turn 3 on the outside wall.
That's right. Yeah.
Someone spun trying to avoid the debris. Jack Harvey.
Yep. Buddy Lazier was involved, I think.
No, his was later.
Oh, was that later? Okay.
That was later, 122, that was. So, yeah. But I mean, again, already at this point, we kind of had 10 drivers out in front who were consistently swapping the lead. Mm-hmm. Alonso was one of them. Alexander Rossi, Takuma Sato, Max Chilton. We had who was the other one? Ryan Hunter Relay. Ryan Hunter Ray. That was the other one. Speaking of Ryan Hunter, I mean, again, we're not going to go lap by this because a lot happened, but not a lot happened, if that makes sense. There's a lot. If this was a Formula One race, we'd be kind of like pulling our hair out, but this is IndyCar. We expect this. But anyway, on lap 136, Ryan Hunter Ray in the Andretti Honda, just after taking the lead, I believe.
Yep.
Engine went pop.
Yeah, this is how people write books, isn't it?
It is a little bit of foreshadowing there.
Yeah.
And they'd already said earlier on that 8 Honda engines had failed in the month of May.
Yeah.
So they already had a question over the fragility of the Honda. However, unlike the Honda Formula One engine, this Honda is at least fast.
Yes.
So I did in fact go as far as to say potentially the faster engine.
Yeah. Well, Alonso had already had a failure in practice as well.
Yeah.
Qualifying. And yeah, I think the Honda is classed as a slightly... It's not... The Chevrolet is bulletproof, whereas the Honda is faster but more susceptible to breakages.
Yeah.
You've got your classic video game setup there. Either you go slower and then go faster at the end and hope you win, or you put your foot down, burn out, and then maybe your engine goes pop.
Yeah, it's a little bit of that. I don't know what the rules are with regards to IndyCar in terms of engine parity, but whatever they're doing, they seem to have a pretty good system set up. But for whatever reason, the Honda has proven it late to be a little bit delicate. But Ryan Hunter Ray, lap 136, that was the first engine failure in the Indy 500.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that was a bit of a, signs and portents, perhaps. We will have to see.
But 136 laps.
Well, that's more than I think any one of the McLaren Honda Formula One engines have done in their entirety ever.
This year, yes.
No, ever. Full stop.
Hang on. I'm just going to do a little bit of mathematics. I'm not going to say math because that is American. 136.
But we are in America because we're doing the Indy 500.
Right, okay. Well, okay, I'm doing a little bit of math. 136 laps, yeah?
Yeah.
2.5 miles per lap. That's 340 miles. That is well over a Grand Prix distance. And now an engine blows?
Yeah.
So, number one, Alonso's into territory he's never been in before anyway.
Yeah.
Number two, this Honda engine has covered more miles than all of the Formula One.
We should point out, in case you missed the fast that was the Monaco Grand Prix, that Jenson Button in Alonso's McLaren had to start from the pit lane because we're 6 races in?
Yeah.
We're 6 races in and Alonso has already used his 5 engines for the season.
Yes, and it's not looking good for him for the rest of the season.
It is not.
So this engine would have done Monaco and more.
Oh, this engine could have easily done the first 6 races of this season.
Yeah.
Crazy. Again, this is all about flat out, foot to the floor. When you had the graphs on showing, gear and throttle and brake and everything like that, it's just all throttle.
It's all throttle, fifth and sixth gear.
5th and 6th, try 8th, mate.
Oh, was it up to 8th?
Up to 8 gears.
I thought it was 5th and 6th. Maybe
No,
I was reading
it's
it wrong.
7 and 8th, I believe. I was because I was thinking that as well. And I was watching one of them, and I was like, 8th gear, bloody hell!
Formula One have got eight gears anyway.
Yeah.
So impressive stuff. It
was impressive stuff, but still, signs and portents. We have a Honda engine has failed.
Yeah.
Lap 136. So anyway, we're still going on. We're certainly in the second half of the race at this point. Should we talk very briefly about pit stops in IndyCar? Very different to Formula One.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have garages as such. You have a pit lane. Each car has a spot, I believe, rather than the team.
Yes.
And what happens is there's a wall. And when they get a pit, they bring out the tyres and they lay the tyres down where they're going to be. And the car comes in and pulls. But it's unlike in Formula One where you have 2 wheelmen per wheel. So one pulls it off. One's on the jack. One pulls the wheel off. And a third man puts the wheel on. So it's 3 men per wheel.
Yes,
Sorry.
3 per wheel, yeah.
3 per wheel, plus the jackmen on either side.
Yeah, and 2
plus
to steady it.
2 to steady it, plus someone to do wing. I mean, effectively, we're probably talking about, 20 people per car?
Yeah, 3, 6, 9, 12, 31. There's at least 17, and then you've got the guy watching it ready to say go anyway.
Yeah. So let's say for easy maths, 20 people per car, yeah?
Yeah.
You've only got, I think, 5 people working on the IndyCar pit.
You have one on each corner.
On the car. There's one on each corner. So the guy takes the wheel off and then puts the next one on. You've got the jackmen on either side, so that's 6. They have refueling here. So there's a fuel man. In fact, I think it's 2 fuel men because one pushing it in and the other to help them get it away. And you have another person do any wing adjustments, but that's it.
No, the wing adjustments will be done by the guy doing the wheels.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the jacks,
there you go. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that they got pneumatics.
Oh, yeah, they're automatic jacks. They're in the... are they in the car or are they in the ground?
No, they're in on the car.
Okay, so it's like LMP1, yeah.
Yeah, so you have 4 little struts that are gas-driven.
So, what, we're talking 6 people?
Yeah, and then you got a lollipop man on the other side of the wall anyway, so really it doesn't count.
Yeah.
I prefer this.
Well, it's a lot slower. You can see what's going on. And like I said, the LED display gives you the countdown for how long they're stationary.
Mm.
So when they come in, it's red showing you their position. When they stop, it goes green, and it counts how long the pit stop is before they leave.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome.
The thing I like about this, right, the only good shot in Formula One of a pit stop is either straight on, because now you have the jackman standing to the side because they have them flashy little jacks.
Yeah.
Or directly over, because then you can see everyone working at exactly the same time. Yeah. On this, you could be pretty much anywhere in that stadium that they have, and you could see the car and what was going on around you. You have 4 people. It's so much easier to keep track of what's going on. And I think this is more exciting to look at because you've got people and movement and what's going on.
You can see the car, like you said. You can see, you got a sense of what's going on. Again, Formula One, it's all very impressive. Like doing a 2.5 second pit stop, but it literally is blink and you miss it.
Yeah, and the car drives in and it disappears behind a wall of men.
It's again in Le Mans and LMP1. I think they have the same system there where you only have, I think it's only 2 men on wheels, because and they have rules where you can't have the door open while it's up on the struts and stuff like this, so they can't do the driver change while that's all going on. It's a much more laboured process, if you will, in terms of this has to happen first, then this happens. But equally so, you're not going to get situations where a car's going to drive off missing a wheel.
Mm.
You know, because you don't have that insane time pressure there.
That's right.
So I'm with you. I think I prefer it this way. And again, if the teams are serious about wanting to get your budgets down, 6 people is a lot cheaper than 20.
Yeah, well, I think Formula One, they use the people that drive the truck. Yeah, old Stan that drives the big gantry truck.
Old Stan isn't allowed at the circuit anymore because now you have to have this kid who can pull a tyre off a car in like a fraction of a second.
Yeah, and then give him a heavy goods vehicle license. Yeah,
but yeah, so that was, again, the spectacle was very good. I enjoyed watching that. I enjoyed, again, I know I keep coming back to this little number thing, but honestly, it was like the greatest thing ever because I don't need to wait for the on-screen display to tell me how long it was.
Yeah.
You know, which doesn't always work half the time. And it will only tell you whatever car the camera's pointing at. This, I could see. It's like, all right, fine, I know. And then again, when they get out, you go, oh, and now they're in this position. So that's great. In fact, the only thing you can't tell off of the car itself is where it is, if it's on the lead lap or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing you can't tell. All the other information is conveyed to you by the car, which I think is genius. It's seriously, I don't know why Formula One doesn't do this. Well, I do know why they don't, but still. And again, that 360-degree camera gave you some great shots as well, where they're trying to race to get out of the pits. No real unsafe releases because the pit lane's wide enough. You can run to a side down there.
Yeah, there's no nonsense of unsafe release. If last year there was a number of unsafe releases, or not unsafe releases, but collisions in the pit lane, which cost people their race, and that it adds to the drama. I'm not saying I want to see crashes because it fucks up people's races, but it's more like trying to get out of Tesco's first, which is a sport in itself sometimes, one that I am frequently the winner as well. And you just got to put your nose out there and just be a dick, really.
You just got to be that guy.
Yeah, you got to be that guy, yeah. And I like this. I like the race off. I like the fact that they got 2 lanes in the pit lane.
Mm-hmm.
So once you pull out, you go as far out as you can, because you know that lane's going to be clear, and then you can have a race off the pit lane. And I understand why they don't in Formula One, because it would just mean screwing up everyone's. They just have to rebuild every single circuit because it's all designed for one lane. But this is another part of the spectacle that the Americans do so well, and it happens in NASCAR as well, and they do it so well there. It's just another little bit that they use every single element to their advantage to bring you a spectacle, and this is just another part of that. Yeah,
no, 100%. And again, it was the way they come out of the pit lane. You know, they're up to speed, pretty damn sharpish, up in that first corner, and away they go. So that's great. We're kind of dancing around it, though. I suppose we'll probably get to the unfortunate news, which came about on lap 179, running 7th. It's doing awfully well.
Well, hang on. No, there was another one just before.
There was another engine failure, that's true.
Charlie Kimball. Kimball. Engine failure. So this was do you remember the Honda engine that was a bit weak?
Yeah. 166, lap 166, Charlie Kimball's engine goes. But like I said, surely this would never happen to Fernando in a McLaren.
Exactly, yeah.
I'll tell you this. So on every time a Honda engine failed, well, one of the engines failed, right from Ryan Hunter-Reay in lap 136 and at Charlie Kimball, they kept cutting to a shot of Zach Brown on the Andretti pit wall.
Oh, okay.
It's like, yeah, you know what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
You had that shot lined up. You were waiting for that, but yeah.
It's like George R.R. Martin has written this story, isn't he?
It bloody was.
Do you remember your favourite character? Oh, he's not going to make it to
Alonso's going down the pit straight going, Hodor. Yeah, and he'd just done a pass, and then all of a sudden there was a pop, effectively, and he had no power. And he's going down the straight, and that's it. The engine's gone.
Yeah.
And I literally jumped out of my seat and just went, no! I did a full Luke Skywalker. No! And it was heartbreaking, legitimately heartbreaking. Yeah. The guy was running 7th, and he had every possibility, every chance of going for a win. He was in that leading pack, and we were just entering that final phase of the race where you just kind of felt that he's got a chance. And yeah, fucking Honda.
Yeah, well, as he was going at that point, he had, as we said, 27 laps in the lead. He'd looked promising all the way through the race. I feel at that point of time, I think there was a restart after the Charlie Kimball engine expire, and they did their yellow laps, and he did drop back ever so slightly. Yes, granted, he could have made it forwards as well. I'm not saying he was tired. I'm not saying it wasn't going to be his year. But it's not as if we're just lording over him for the sake of lording over him. He was really pushing it, but at that point, he was waning ever so slightly.
I don't know if I'd agree with that, especially since he'd just done a pass right before the engine went pop as well.
He had done a pass, and he was still in that leading group, but he was further back from that. I think there was a chance of him gathering his thoughts, gathering everything up, and then going for it again. And I think he would have been in the mix towards the very end.
Oh,
but
yeah.
He had dropped back at that point. But I'm not saying that was him just being knackered or him not being able to cope with it. It was just a case, as we said before, it's a marathon, so you jostle for position, you work out where you want to sit, and he was just far enough back for me to go, okay, it may not have been his year, so maybe this was the correct way to finish it. Because if he finished 6th or 7th, people would have gone, oh, he ain't that good, is he?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think everyone who watched this competed against him.
Yeah.
He could have finished, well, again, just finished straight up. He would have had maximum respect. But given, he got rookie of the day, he got the highest average speed. Again, people had been respecting him throughout, but the fans embraced him.
Yeah.
More so. The other thing as well we've got to say about Fernando Alonso is, again, IndyCar in general, the Indy 500 in particular, it's a circus. Not in the way they say about Formula One. This is a legitimate circus. You're trotted out around all the American cities. There's events. There's, everything you can imagine in terms of PR. And Alonso did it without complaint, with a smile on his face.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've got to remember the reputation Fernando Alonso had prior to 2015 of being difficult to work with, of being a prima donna, of, no one, if things aren't going his way, he's just going to throw his toys out of his pram and that's it. He did this all without complaint. And it's one of the things that Andretti said is he was the consummate professional at all times. And I think that, more than anything else, went a big way to fix that perspective people have about Alonso.
Yeah.
We've said it ourselves. Prior to him coming to McLaren, we both kind of thought he was a great driver, but a bit of a dick. Yeah,
he'd lost his way a little bit. He was a bit delusions of grandeur that he should have won. Maybe he should have won more as well.
Yeah, but you know what? It's maximum respect from this.
Yes.
But as you say, alas, it was not to be this year. It was he was engine failed on him. Gutting. And almost what makes it worse is it was the last engine failure of the day.
Well, yeah, that was it.
Yeah. So
just prior to that as well, I know it's a couple of laps before. I think it was, I've got it in my notes, lap 130. And there's a restart. I think it was just after Bully Lazier. And I've written down that Alonso took the restart. He was 4th when he went into turn 1.
Mm-hmm.
No, he was 4th. And when he went into turn 1, he was 2nd on the restart.
Yeah.
So he was pushing all the way. And then lap 31, he was back in the lead.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just in awe of him. When I turn around and say that he's not waning when his engine actually popped, I'm not saying that I don't appreciate what he did. I'm not saying that he was waning. I'm not saying he was taking a break or anything like that. It was just the concertina, the position shuffles that you get. He just so happened to be in 7th or 9th or wherever he was when his engine went.
Mm.
I'm not just trying to lord him up for lording him up's sake. I don't really... I know there's something I'm trying to say. I'm not quite touching on it just yet, but I was vastly impressed with what he did that weekend and throughout the whole month.
I've got to say, I think there are very few Let's have a look. I think Jenson Button could have done it. I think Sebastian Vettel could do it.
Yep.
I think Danny Ricciardo could do it.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of front runners in Formula One, though, those are the only ones who I think both have the natural raw speed and the mental fortitude to go and do this and to run well.
Yeah.
Now, actually, I'll also include Lewis Hamilton there, but I'm only going to include him there because he would want to do it because he loves all things American. Whereas if it was something like Le Mans, or if it wasn't the American spectacle, I don't think he would have that commitment to do it.
Yeah, he's kind of like the Beckham now, isn't he?
He's gone a bit Beckham-y, yeah.
Yeah,
so
it's the brand now.
Exactly, it's that whole Team 44 bollocks. So yeah, I mean, we doff our caps to Fernando Alonso. 21 laps from the end, it was not meant to be, but a spectacular effort. I think that's a golf clap right there.
Oh, definitely. Well done, sir.
But alas, the race was not yet done. There was still, as we said, 21 laps to go. So the next big thing that happened, obviously, so Alonso's out, side of the road, big standing ovations, people are cheering him as he's going off. It's very sad. But meanwhile, at turn one, I think it was a turn one.
Yes, it was. Yeah,
it was turn one.
Yeah,
exit of turn one. Little bit of a crash. We had 4 cars this time. We have your man Will Power.
Yep.
James Hitchcliffe. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this name correctly. Oriol Servia.
Yep.
And James Davidson on lap 183.
And Joseph Newgarden as well.
Did he go out as well?
He was involved.
Oh, but he managed to resume, did he?
I think he did, yeah. I think he ended up coming back to the pits.
Yeah.
Where did he actually finish? Where did Newgarden finish?
He finished 19th. So he 14 laps down. So he finished, but
he was limping.
Only just, yeah. So they had a big old crash just coming out of turn one. But again, this was just a caution, wasn't it? This wasn't a red flag, but it did mean the entire field got bunched up again.
Yeah.
So, and again, you got to think if Fernando Alonso had been in the mix at this time, bunched up. I mean, this basically boiled down to a sprint from lap 184 onwards.
The restart was 11 to go. I know that.
Okay. Yes, racing resumed with 11 to go. So basically, easy maths. It was a 10-lap sprint to the end.
Yeah, let's go for that. Yeah.
And there was more excitement in those 10 laps, frankly, than in the last
100 laps in Formula One.
I'm trying to think when was the last legitimately amazing Formula One race since Canada 2012. So we're going back a few years.
Oh, okay, all right. I'll let you have that one.
But see, there was so much going on. We had, I think, 3 different cars made their play for the lead. There was a load of them in it. It was jostling, but basically it got to the point where Takuma Sato managed to get out ahead, and he made a break, and he managed to make it stick. But that was only on, I think, the second to last lap.
Yeah, he had a few to go. I know it was Castroneves because he was going for the 4th win of his career at Indy 500.
Yeah.
He's got 3, and there's only a couple others that have got 4, and he wants that 4, and he's come close a couple of times, but no cigar.
Yeah.
But 3's not too bad.
He was also the only Chevy in the top 5.
Oh wow, yeah. That's right, yeah.
But yeah, basically, Montoya kind of fell away pretty sharpish. So it was down to the top 5, who all had a chance up until the end.
Yep.
Again, they were swapping places, but Takuma Sato, former Formula One driver, so former, he was with Honda? No, it was with Jordan, BAR, who then became Honda.
Yep.
And then Super Aguri, who last raced in Formula One in
12?
2008.
Oh, 2008.
Yeah, super gooey. So, yeah, quite a while ago. Won his first Indy 500 and the first time a Japanese driver, in fact, the first time any driver from Asia has taken victory in the Indy 500.
Yeah. And there was a reporter that was being a massive dick about this as well.
Yeah?
Did you hear about this?
No, I haven't heard about this.
Okay, there was a reporter, he tweeted that he said there's something about a Japanese driver winning on Memorial Day at the Indy 500 that doesn't stand well with him. And then he promptly lost his job. So, fuck you very much.
Yeah, quite right too.
Yeah, too right. What a dick.
Yeah.
I don't care how badly it sits with you. You can fuck off as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
No.
Fuck off some more. Keep fucking off. And when you're finished fucking off, fuck off again until you get back here, and then you can fuck off again.
Yeah, we'll carry all over again. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm
still less swears than the Monaco podcast.
Yeah, still less swears. Yeah, with Sato winning, I have to admit, when I first, because I found out the result before I watched the race, I was trying my hardest to avoid it, and me and you were out and about on the Sunday anyway. So
we were.
When I got back from where we were on Sunday, I watched the Monaco Grand Prix, and then on the bank holiday Monday, I managed to watch the Indy 500. And it is like all news with me. It chases me around until I read it. Yeah. And the Indy 500, because I've got so many feeds running anyway, I bumped into something and I saw the winner wasn't an orange car. So I was like, okay, Alonso didn't win. That's fine. But I want to steer clear of it. And then this blue and white car kept flashing up in front of me. Okay, I need to find out who won it. And so I looked it up and I saw Sato, and I know his history. He was very erratic in Formula One. I've seen him be erratic in IndyCar as well. He came very close to winning the Indy 500 once before. But I think going into turn 3, he ended up losing it against Franchitti. Tried to duck underneath him from memory and ended up just planting it in the wall. And looked very stupid because of it. And he comes across as a clumsy driver. He's one of them drivers to me. And when I saw Sato had won it, I looked at him and went, Sato, really? Really? How did that happen? But watching the race and watching it unfold, flipping hell, he drove out of his skin.
It did have a feeling afterwards that this was his year, because he was always there or thereabouts. Very quiet, but he was always just there.
Lap 91, he had a slow pit stop where they dropped a wheel nut. He came out of that and he was 17th on the grid, in the standing order at that time in lap 91. So it goes to show you can win from anywhere on here.
Well, again, if that was Formula One, that'd be game over.
Yeah, you wouldn't have a chance, would you?
No.
You wouldn't
not
stand
at all.
a chance. But after watching the race, I was so impressed. Another person that impressed me, Max Chilton.
Yes!
Max Chilton. Guess who led most of the laps throughout this race?
Yeah, 50 laps led.
50 laps. The closest to him after 50 laps was Ryan Hunter-Reay with 28 laps, and below him, Fernando Alonso with 27 laps.
Yeah.
50 laps he led. And I am not Max Chilton's biggest fan. If anything...
Oh, I put him about 3 places ahead of Jolyon Palmer.
Yeah, I'd say he was, a smidgen better than Jolyon Palmer, especially in Formula One. He's really impressed me in this, because you need a certain skill to go around here. Would you put Jolyon Palmer in one of these cars?
I wouldn't put Jolyon Palmer in a milk float, but you keep telling me I've got to be nice about him, so I will not say that.
Until mid-season, we have to be nice. I wouldn't trust Jolyon Palmer with a shopping trolley. I really wouldn't. And Max Chilton is really just... I'm so impressed. So impressed. So, yeah, well done, sir.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I was impressed with that. Anything else you was impressed with on this?
Just, I suppose, again, the spectacle of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Just how well choreographed it is. Again, I felt I'd be bored. And I won't lie, towards the end, it kept my attention just because of how excited the end was.
Yeah.
But certainly, I suppose, the third quarter, if you will, I certainly started to feel like a bit of, can we move it along a little bit now? I just feel, 200 laps, that's a lot of running to be doing. I understand why it's got to be that, because you've got to get to 500 miles.
Yeah.
But I feel it would probably be better at maybe 250 miles. Probably be a happier sort of time frame there. But still, that being said, that was all amazing. How, we keep going on about it, but it's worth saying, fucking Fernando Alonso. I mean, we expected big things from him, but he met our expectations.
Oh,
which was...
He definitely delivered, didn't he?
Absolutely. Which was amazing. So, yeah, he completely met our expectations there. If I could watch IndyCar easily like I can watch Formula One, I'd probably follow it after watching this.
Yes.
It's just, we can't easily watch it, unfortunately.
No.
But yeah, no, I really, really enjoyed that, which was great. I almost feel like if the guys who run IndyCar and the guys who run Formula One and probably the guys that run Le Mans all sat down together, were locked in a room, and could mix and match between the three, you'd probably get the most amazing motorsport formula of all time would come out of that.
Yeah.
There's bits, I love them, all of them. It's just cherry picking those bits. But yeah, all told, it was amazing. I'm really glad we did this, and I got to say, I mean, I think Alonso or not next year, I think we should do this again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm up for doing this again.
Okay.
In fact, I'll tell you what. How about, we don't have to watch all of it. Should we do a Le Mans special as well?
Oh yeah, I was just about to suggest that as well. We might as well do all
we may
three.
we may as well do the Triple Crown.
But yeah, at least we get it. So yeah. It'll be Graham Hill, Elton McManus, and Andy Plastides.
Yep.
The only three that have done the Triple Crown.
Triple Crown.
Hey, we're doing the Triple Crown in the same year. In your face, losers.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow.
And probably no one's sworn quite as much as me over Monaco.
That's true. That's true.
It reminds me of an episode of Top Gear, I think it was, with James May was being made to do a race. And Clarkson said to him, look, just bear in mind, if you win, you'll be the only person who's won without wanting to be there. That was me at Monaco.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, that was the Indy 500.
That was our version of it, definitely.
That was our version of it. Shall we do the top five and stuff like that, like we usually would?
Yeah, go on then. Let's go through the top five.
All right. So in terms of finishing the race, right, we'll do the top 10 as we usually do. So at 10 was Carlos Munoz in a Chevy. At 9 was Gabby Chavez, also in a Chevy. At 8 was Marco Andretti in a Honda. 7 was Alexander Rossi in an Andretti Honda. At 6 was Juan Pablo Montoya in a Chevy. At 5th was Tony Kanaan in a Honda. 4 was Max Chilton in the Honda. 3 was Ed Jones in the Honda. 2nd was Castro Neves in the Chevy. And the winner was Takuma Sato. As far as the championship goes, we don't really care, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Go on.
The way the IndyCar Championship looks at the minute is at 5 is Alexander Rossi with 190 points. At 4 is Scott Dixon with 234. At 3rd, also with 234, is Takuma Sato. Second is Simon Pagnard with 234.
Paginode.
Paginode, there you go.
Yeah, Paginode.
It's French.
Paginot.
I was going to mutilate it anyway.
I think it's Paginode.
Pagineer.
Yeah.
That sounds French. And leading the championship at the minute is Catherine Evers with 245. And there's only two in the manufacturer's settings. Chevy are second with 479, and Honda in the lead with 480. So that's pretty tight. Incidentally, Alonso got more points at this race than I think he's gotten in the last 3 seasons with McLaren.
Okay, how many points did he get for this race?
47. He got 5 for qualifying.
Yep.
And then he got 42 for the race.
I take it that's going to be down to lead laps, etc., isn't it?
I think it's... I'm not sure. I'm not sure how they work out the points. Because Takuma Sato got the most, 137.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's a double points race anyway.
Yeah.
I think it always has been a double points race.
Yeah.
Because
if you know out there how the points work for IndyCar, please write into us and let us know.
Yeah.
We don't care enough to look it up, but still. So anyway.
I think it was 2015 when Montoya lost out on the championship because Scott Dixon got double points in the last race because they did a double points last race for some reason. Haven't they learned? And people forgot that Montoya got double points in the Indy 500 that he'd won that year as well.
Yeah.
I remember that happening. See, I dip into it every now and again. I know little bits.
Dip your toe.
Yeah. In fact, there's a race today as well. There was a race yesterday and a race today. And Graham Rahal won the race yesterday. If hopefully I'm not spoiling it for anyone there, but I'm sure that you're up to date with that anyway.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Third column, sir. I believe we had some picks.
Okay. Did we do a third? I don't think we did a third column.
We did. Where did we think Alonso would finish?
Well, we did qualifying first, and he ended up qualifying 5th. You said he'd qualify 8th. I said he'd qualify 6th.
Oh, you're the closest to the pin there, sir.
Yeah, nearest to the pin. That is pretty damn close. As soon as I'd said 6th, I wanted to change it to 9th, but I'm glad I stuck with that. And in the race, you predicted that he'd finish 2nd. I predicted, like a chump, that he'd win. I think there was only one way that I was going to choose, and I predicted that he'd win. And he actually, where was he classified? He was classified as 24th.
So it's like classified? Classified.
I'm English. It's classified. Oh, no, we're American, aren't we? Yeah. It's classified. 24th.
Yes.
But we didn't have a third column.
We did not.
No,
oh, well.
I think it was probably where would Takuma Sato finish. And I probably would have said in the wall. And I'm sure you would have said 2nd or something like that. So,
well, I'd have had to say he's 1 because I already said Alonso would be 2nd. So,
oh yeah,
I'll take that as a moral victory then.
Okay, well done, well done, sir. Well done, sir.
Thank
but
you,
we get no points for this. This is
we do get no points
at all.
No.
So yeah, there it is. Indy 500 all done and dusted for this year.
Yeah. Like I said, a lot of fun. We'll do again.
Mm.
If I could watch it easily, I would definitely follow it. If you could take one thing from IndyCar to Formula One, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. If I could take one thing.
And the other way around as well. So one thing from IndyCar to make Formula One better, and one thing from Formula One to make IndyCar better.
Okay, as much as I don't like the look of the cars, I kind of like them. I like the fact that they can run close together.
Yeah.
And so I think a basic aero package. I'm not saying everyone in Formula One should have the same off-the-shelf aero, but I think the aero needs to be tweaked to be simplified in Formula One. It's too busy. It's far too busy. So
yeah,
that is what I'd take from it.
And the other way, what would you take from Formula One for IndyCar?
Oh, what would I take? I think it'd actually be a circuit. There's no. I think IndyCar is fine as it is. I think it can learn from Formula One. If anything, I would say don't take much more from Formula One.
I think you're right, because Formula One is so far up its own arse.
Yeah.
And at least IndyCar kind of knows where it is. I mean, the thing I would like to take from IndyCar to Formula One is the sense of spectacle. Because IndyCar, from what I've seen, is looking out towards the everything is about the fan experience. Everything. Whereas Formula One, I think if the teams had their way, would do all the races on closed circuits where no one could watch.
Yeah.
You know, it's the fans are a necessary annoyance they have to put up with. Whereas, I mean, again, at the beginning of the IndyCar race, when they're leading off, you had Mario Andretti in a 2-seat IndyCar with a fan in the back.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And how old's Mario now?
I know, but it's just like that. Everything there is about the fan experience. It's about putting the fans as close as they can to the action, keeping them informed, let them have a good time. Again, you get really close access to everything. Everything can be seen. You don't have to. It's all laid out there in front of you. I think that is the one thing I would like Formula One to take away from IndyCar.
Yeah.
I suppose the only thing I would like IndyCar perhaps to take from Formula One, it's like you said, it's not the car designs as such, but I just generally think the Formula One cars are prettier. And I'm not talking about all the aero and all the sculpture. I just think they tend to look better. All the iterations, everything from the 90s through to now, I've always thought Formula One cars just look better. So just something about the look of them.
Right. Okay.
But that's it.
Yeah, I think we stand pretty much on the same box there. Maybe
Yes.
if IndyCar can take something from Formula One, it would be learn the lessons of the mistakes that Formula One has made in the previous 10 years.
Well, strangely enough, I think they did, because they split into 2 championships, didn't they? They became kart and IndyCar, and then they were both in risks of becoming bust around 2000, so they remerged. And I think they learnt those lessons, and it's a much stronger championship now as a result. So we can only hope.
It when they'd split. I really didn't.
No, I mean, it got very nasty, and I just have to hope Liberty Media, who I believe were involved with IndyCar, and now with Formula One, hopefully they can make it, something better.
Yeah.
More of a spectacle. It's all about the spectacle for the fans, in my opinion.
I've just looked up Mario Andretti. He's 77.
Well, Jackie Stewart's still bloody doing driver training and stuff, isn't he?
I don't care about Jackie Stewart. Jackie Stewart's got an opinion on absolutely everything. The way I cut my grass, he'd probably got an opinion on, oh, no, you're doing it all wrong. No, Jackie, no, it's my grass. No, grass should be cut with a sharp blade. I don't know what accent I'm doing there. I really don't.
Neither do I, but I think we found your trigger now, haven't we?
What, Jackie fucking Stewart? Mr. Opinion on everything, yeah.
We'll put a pin in that for later.
You watch, someone will come up to him and ask him a fucking question, and okay. Or nobody will ask him a question, and yet he'll still end up on the media somewhere with his fucking opinion. Yeah, you've triggered me on that. Fuck. Bollocks. Fucking Jackie Stewart.
Shall we end this before we go on too long?
Yeah, let's end it there. Thank you to everyone who's listened to us waffle on for nigh on hour and 50 minutes. We really do appreciate you letting us do this. We've probably made so many mistakes you cannot count them on both your hands and feet. But don't worry about it. We're just going to move on to Canada next week. I'm looking forward to Canada. I'm sure Andy is. Yeah, there we go.
Do you know why I'm looking forward to Canada?
Go on.
Because it's not fucking Monaco.
Oh, Monaco's done, mate. It's done. It was a week ago.
No, it'll be back next year.
It will be.
Hate Monaco.
And do you know what? It'll probably be back when you're dead, and when I'm dead, and when this podcast is over. They'll still be going to Monaco.
That got bloody ominous there, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, but I guarantee you, it still will be. Guarantee it. It ain't going away anytime soon. I promise you. But before we leave, thank you to everyone who's listening. But we would like to tout a couple of wares, if you don't mind. So, Andy, would you like to share your goodness that you put on the internet?
When I'm not talking about Formula One with you, I'm talking about hopefully getting back to talking about Band of Brothers soon, because it's been a while. So we'll do the Band of Brothers podcast. And you can also catch me on Space Dock Jewelry, which is at spacedockjewelry.com, and on the iTunes and so forth, where my good self, Mr. Lee Medcalf, and Reverend Peter Organ have a spirited, informed discussion, argument, over who's got the best spaceship. Spoiler alert, it's usually me.
Yeah. I've noticed that. It's not normally the best. It's just the highest scoring.
What can I say? I like big bricks which blow shit up.
Yeah, fair play. And when I'm also not talking about cars that go round in circles, we did this week. I am on the Black Dog Podcast, which can be found at blackdogpodcast.com. We talk about films, and the one that is coming out this week, which has been a week in the making, is The Spy Who Loved Me, which is the Roger Moore Memorial, I suppose you would say. And also coming back this month, I've already penciled in for the 8th, I think it is, 8th of July. I'm going to be coming back with Shonky Lab, which is at shonkylab.com or RogueTwoMedia, whatever one you want. It's all on the iTunes as well. And this week, I'm doing an experiment on Appear.in, where you can phone in, listen in, join in as well. Normally it's on the Mixler, but my computer that does that is not working at the moment, so I'm trying other things until I can get myself a new computer. So please pop along and join us there. Please download all the other podcasts that we listen to and are involved in. Pop along to iTunes, give us reviews as well. They always help. And we have a Patreon, which is on RogueTwoMedia.com. You can find all the links over there. Yeah, that'll keep us all alive and dandy. So, until Canada rocks up, which is next weekend, I've been Elton, this has been Andy, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Ta-ra.